construction, but it's a sort of negotiation between the authority, the place, and then the people who inhabit the place.
All that is excellent. That's all right on. How does it relate to my questions about differences between China and Rome?
The concept of things between China and America, or what? Is that means the difference between
Just a little slower and a little clearer and a little louder.
Oh yeah. Is that means the differences between the differences of concept of things between China and U.S. Or I understand right? For that.
That's a question. What's the answer?
Oh yeah, I think that in China, as far as I'm concerned, that the thing is, I think that is mainly related to the history because there are some.
That's true of Italy. Everybody has a history, but what specifically is different, which he's pointing to? And is he right or wrong? That is, he's saying youth, buzz, Beijing, but he doesn't tell us. He doesn't tell us this is Beijing and this is Shanghai or this is Rome.
Yes. Yeah, I think because the youth they are.
Or take let me say one thing which he's doing again. I'm trying to help you here. We're moving together because I had the same reaction. You know, we had 150 people, mostly PhD students, faculty across China, and he's doing some. So we all had the question. He looked with his own eyes, and then he went to where does this come from?
This from like a app which is evaluate whether this place is bad, is good or bad. Yeah, it's like a evaluation apps platform.
Does this say good or bad?
Oh no, these things are the like the keywords in the evaluation comment. Yeah.
But is this evaluation?
Oh no, they are just keywords.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's different.
Yeah.
See, he could say good, bad, 100% say good or 50% say bad. That's not what the table says. The table just says count the words. And the words are again and again and again. What are the words that people say about this mall in Beijing? And the words are young, adolescent, young. Okay, so they really are saying we're youthful. Is this really uniquely Beijing? Is it uniquely youthful even? They don't go any lower, but he had 17,000 comments. So this is quantitative, qualitative, that's great. And he's mixing methods, he's contrasting the two things. With 17,000, and a total of 3 million words, key words. He went through 3 million words, and bang, it's youth is what they're really talking about. But I would say that's this quantitative version. But what is his eyes? What do his eyes add to that from his own ethnography, which is different? Let's go up or down a little bit more. Yeah, with the label which you focused on was consumer evaluation. This is like Yelp, same kind of thing as Yelp. What's good or bad about this? It may either maybe the whole mall, or it may be a particular one building in the mall. I think it's probably the whole mall basically. But it has there are pictures of it, and so what might be youthful about the image What is there in the hint architecture? You seen the building?
It's like a block.
Okay, let's just scroll back up there where let me look at the building. Okay, right here. And then is there another one? This one, this really looks more like a warehouse. I mean, this is not really very distinctive, I would say. But the other one is. It's well, it's further back over here, and maybe let's look again. You know, Beijing's unique and charming style, leisure territory with great vitality and popularity, young people. Okay, let's either go up or down. Let's find another picture if they want. See that? Okay, there's more here. Okay, this has got some sort of a jungle gym kind of structure. So that's a teasing play on the youthful child. Younger kids are more playing on this. But okay, this looks like Chicago's downtown. Same color, same kind of thing. But okay. So let's scroll a little bit more. Is there another picture? Okay, here we go. This looks distinctive in the sense of this is not 100 years or 200 years ago in Beijing or in Paris or in Chicago. This is new, striking. I'm attacking and changing gears, changing aesthetics with a shocking variation. And so this is the name of the mall, but what's the name here? Uniqlo. What's Uniqlo? You all three must know this. Don't? You don't know the name?
The clothing store.
Okay,
Yeah.
but so just elaborate briefly. How does that link with what they put together?
Well, it's like if I can get the read on Uniqlo right, it's like a young, sort of modern style clothes brand marketed towards sort of like young professionals who want to be popular and hip and all that stuff. And so they've, I guess, designed the building around those principles.
Exactly. Right on. Okay. Is it uniquely Beijing in that sense? That is, this name and this mall is in Beijing, but is there anything in Paris we've seen like that? In our readings today, we're moving into our readings, and we're going to use that is okay. We'll use the readings and one reading. I'm trying to. I mean, Paris. What have we seen on Paris that we've talked about? This was last week. The week before. No, week before. So it's the week before the exam. Okay. The simple answer for Paris used to be an old. It's very similar to the near north. It's near west side. It's the Lake Street area. It used to be a wholesale food market. Fish, meat, lettuce, used to be trucked in, and they had them during the night, and then the restaurant owners would show up at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and they'd buy for the stores, for their restaurant. So some individual consumers would go there, but some are uniquely wholesale. Okay. Most of that got torn down. This is now a hot area for the last 20 years, starting with this, and I'm saying this because this is not unique to Chicago. This is common in many of these cities. Tearing down the old, production-oriented, replacement with consumption-oriented restaurants, cafes, nightclubs, bars, and right in the middle of it was the headquarters of Oprah Winfrey, global spokesperson of the world as terms of consumption. She grew up in poor, low-income neighborhood. She remade herself many times, and she has edited or coordinated newsletters and book series and spoke speakers, smart people around the world who come to her show, and it's been watched by people around the world. How can I make myself better? How can I remake my furniture, my internal decor, the clothes I wear, the makeup, the hairstyle, the children's dress, etc. Avant-garde pop culture. That's Oprah Winfrey in the middle of this. Then if we go a couple more blocks west, we get to the Google headquarters in the Midwest, basically in Chicago. And these two things together, Oprah Winfrey, Google, the new shops are doing exactly what we've been talking about more generally as a big theoretical post-industrial consumption. China is doing this the same as elsewhere. They're doing it faster and more recently, and so it's more visibly shocking in Beijing and in Paris, where you have a longer, beautiful city of city with hugely important architectural history, memories, etc. And so this is a shocking kind of architectural style, which is we're new, and we've got a new. Is this Calvin Klein or the great luxury brands of Paris? No. Which brand? What's the head? Who are the leaders of this company? Anybody know?
Japan. It's from Japan, right?
The leaders are from Japan, and where are they all made? China. So it's Japan and China, not Western. It's not Paris. It's not New York. So there's a proud kind of Asian nationalism about it as well, which is new and youthful, linking them together. Okay. Okay. Here's a key word I'm looking for here. What's this? Interpel. It's not common English. It's a technical term. Anybody? Okay. I'll put the name on the board because you won't know him. He was a professor in Paris. And one of his students was Bourdieu. Okay, so Bourdieu, and then back here, These were 1930s, 1940s Marxist theorists. Gives you a hint. Althusser added a more general level of abstraction, even more general. Adorno he is cited here briefly with the dialectics book, but it was a similar idea in Gramsci, basically saying, we want to be Marxist, we want to focus on conflict, we want to focus on exploitation and dominance of what? And what's the bigger concept? Is it business? Is it the business elite? No. Business elite is too narrow and empirical. The bigger concept behind the business elite, whether you're talking about buying grain in the Midwest or something bigger, there was a session put on by one of our pals on the South Side named Theaster Gates. He had a launching of his program. That is, he was criticized by the foundations about the dean of the Harris School, where he had an appointment for a while. The foundation gave him money, and the woman who was the secretary, what's her name? Not secretary. The commissioner of culture in the city of Chicago. These three all asked the same question again and again of Theaster. What's your program, and how can we generalize it? Because you're talking about one or two buildings on the south side, one street. How can we reach a broader set of policy implications that can be used elsewhere? And he said. So his staff came to knock on our door around that time and said, you know, we gotta have a treatise. We need to have a program. We need to have a constitution. You know, a label. What are we doing? Okay. This is 2016. We had a conference in Chicago. We had people from the Scenes Project that came from China, Korea, France, etc. and we had a couple of people, and we had some people at IIT, which is a school, right? We were there because of the architects, new styles, design of buildings, and so forth, as well as urban planning, linking to the social sciences, which we're putting together, and on Wednesday we had an open general session, and one day then we had one day which was Theaster Gates' session, launching of his program, because we had four students that did MAs working with Theaster Gates on these issues in different ways. One was doing ethnographic field work with the people, coming to yoga sessions and black cinema, and to discussions of outside meaning of black cinema and so forth. And then we had, I won't go into too much detail except to say we had just one or two things to give you the flavor, which is general and then sometimes is specific. South Side, African American culture. We had the presentation by Theaster and by another collaborator. We then had talking heads, sort of experts, political science, economics, and so forth, talking about listening and trying to articulate what was in this new program, which is maybe 10 or 15 pages. The way they introduced them and showed little points, big points in the program, Were they talking heads? No, they were featured in between these acts, if you will. And acts, I use deliberately the term. Acts within the general scene. A new set of people would walk forward, and they had a different kind of music, loud music, and they had a visible DJ who would choose the music to fit with the people. And then the people would have different outfits on. Even the same people, including the lady who was the chair of the ceremonies, would walk up in the three different scenes of the whole conference. She had 3 different outfits and different kinds of music for each of these. Okay. We then got to the last session with the general public. There may be 600 people there, in the biggest hall over in the Logan Center. They then, after following the session with those 3 people who had asked these difficult generalizing questions, can we really make these changes if we are working under capitalism? That's the answer. It's not just business elite, it's not just Uniqlo, it's not the name of the mall, it's capitalism. Okay, that's what Althusser basically stressed. It's not the business elite, it's not the cash, not the money, it's the spirit of capitalism, which informs your way of thinking, the mentality. Okay, so that came up about 3 times from the audience. And so then at the final end, and so each time the questions were coming to Theaster, and each time he sort of skirted around the issue. So, and the last time he got it, the 3rd time, the 4th time he got the same question. He said, don't we have to abolish capitalism before we can change these things in the province of the South Side and so forth? So the last time he turned to the DJ and he said, what do you think? And what was his answer? Abolish capitalism. Okay, so this is not, that answer is not unique to the South Side. Does he say this in this presentation? No. Is this in a fundamentally capitalistic society? The whole point of Mao is to abolish capitalism. So if you're in Mao's country, does that fit? No. So the context of capitalism in France or New York doesn't work for Beijing. But maybe the dynamics, and this is Japan, this is Japanese leadership, maybe that's capitalism. And of course, in all of these countries, we have a mix. We have some capitalism, and we have some more socialism, and we have some mixtures of this and that, and the like, and they're being discovered. Okay, so I'm giving you the simple one-line summary of Althusser, but the term interpel, if you look this up in Wikipedia, or you read some Althusser, and you read Bourdieu. I mean, you've had a bunch of courses here in sociology. What do you know about Bourdieu which relates to this?
I have to say, I'm a really bad Bourdieu.
You're what?
I'm a really bad Bourdieusian sociologist because I don't actually. I'm very bad at remembering people's theories, but I actually
can't say. He's the speaker.
I can't say that.
We need an active cinematic leader here, active, moving around through the whole session. You You can't just sit in the corner and let it sit on a different person. Okay, I'm just saying, that happened yesterday, and we missed the whole screen, and it cut off the top third. You've got to look in, okay, sorry, I'm just saying this because both of you TAs haven't been in Hollywood long enough. Okay, sorry.
So,
So when you say you're not a board, you mean you don't know anything about it, or you dislike and find jarring to your sociological senses?
I probably know about Bourdieu, but I can't. I've always struggled to place the theorists with the theory that they have to say. So if I am asked, what does Bourdieu say? I'm like, I don't remember. But that, I have definitely read him before. I just can't remember what he said versus what anyone else said.
Okay. What is the title of his main book for the sociologist?
The survey of cultural production, right?
One word. What's the title of his one-word book? No.
I don't know.
But it's close. I mean, it's very close.
Yeah.
It's an extension, and the word is distinction. Harvard University Press, fat book. It's a distillation of many of his other essays and things which he's done. And it's the same idea. It's the same idea from the most roughly beginning to the end of his career. And the point about distinction is in the way he then follows Hegel and follows Marx is to say there's a high and a low. And the people at the top hold down, or they do better than the people on the bottom. That's the one sentence idea, and that's a little it's both more general in capitalism, but it takes the same idea of exploitation. The people at the bottom are being held down. The people at the top are going away with the good times, and the people in the bottom aren't having the good times. That's the kind of idea. Lipset talked about, I'm a secular Marxist, he said. That is, in the 1930s, he was a firm Trotskyite. By the 50s, he was a secular Marxist, so he still analyzed in his chapters, his most widely read book, Political Man, were Marxist kinds of ideas, but not in a dogmatic way. And the second edition of the book then discussed how his own ideas he changed as he read and the point is it's not uniquely biographical. The whole field of social science and many other people in the Depression, in the 30s, in Europe, in China, in the US, people were moving toward Marx in capitalism. They were blaming, and they were remaking capitalism within the US, within Europe, and so forth. They built with Keynes. So Keynes was a major advisor of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The Bretton Woods Conference in New Hampshire, where I've spent, I go to New Hampshire in that area, so I know it well, was right next to Mount Washington. A huge Mount Washington sort of inspired them to build something bigger and stronger, and that generated the World Bank, the international global capitalist institutions, and they're still there today. And so people are talking about in China of getting around these and to have a separate kind of financial base and so forth, etc. So so in a sense we have a mixture from the 30s of socialism. That is, what did Keynes bring to that? Why did I mention Keynes? This is what breakfast meal discussion with your mother probably knows about Keynes, and if you don't, you can tell them that. What's that? and I'm asking, and I'm asking two people who are non-economists. Okay, Keynes brought socialism to America and to the world. That is, using the government to solve the Depression by using the government leadership to spend more money instead of spending less. So if they followed Adam Smith literally, they would have said, keep the government out of this and the market will solve this itself. And maybe in the long run, it probably would have been true. But the long run would have led more people to be more unhappy and to be more politically loud and so forth. And so Keynes and the English answer, and then the Americans fought. So the Americans tried out a couple of years of less government in the 30s, but the predominant view of Roosevelt and the others was let's do a little bit of socialism. Let's spend more and let's try to let's make the economy go faster again by borrowing money, by somehow putting more money into the economic system. And it was combined with the war beginning, it worked. So in that sense, many people then said from the 30s through the, let's say, close to the present, would say we live in a Keynesian world in the sense that we have socialism and capitalism combined in China, in Sweden, in the US, and so forth. So there are elements of each. So if we look within these economic and geographic locations, we can find dimensions which were more capitalist, as in the case of the South Side. The ideology, capitalism is what makes us bad, but on the other hand, our music can help. Okay, our clothes can help, and we can have fun. All right. So this is one of 3 words that he uses, and this is his first of what he's saying that is distinctive. But he hasn't read. I don't know how we don't know how much he's read about this stuff. But if we look through the rest of what he has to say, and you've been seeing it for 15 minutes, and you're getting a discussion with me, just scroll down a little bit more to, let's say, the production mechanisms, planning, construction, layout, agreement, display, defining fashion, trends, aesthetics, making consumers accept them. Okay, there are 2 parts of this. One is fashion and trends and aesthetics. The second is having consumers accept them. Okay. The distinctive thing which Althusser adds, and which he doesn't really elaborate, but that's where this could be a keynote to making something more general, which is is not really here in his presentation, in his words that is explicit. But the idea from Althusser is that you have a voice of authority which says, who's going there? Who are you? The answer is, you replies, it's me. Are you? Who's in this movie house? Black cinema. Okay, but the voice of authority is the implication of the word interpel, and it's not, are you having a good time? That is, it's more, what are you doing? And so there's a linkage between the concept of black cinema or capitalism as something structuring ideologically. He uses the term ideology frequently, because he's very explicit about trying to join and use ideology, but to link these things together with a sense of identity and accepting them, but also feeling that you're choosing your own clothes. You may go to that shop and you may choose the brand, but you choose with the brand, and it's also Adidas, etc. They feel the buzz effects in the scene, space, strolling, and consumption. stimulating consumer vitality while maintaining order in consumer behavior. Okay, that's a little bit the capitalist kind of theme. Okay, so the let's scroll down just one. Well, maybe go toward the end. So one here is bridge and reciprocity in the interaction between this area and the external world. Okay, this is important. Mainly the government and surrounding communities. What effects does youth buzz play, and what actions does its effects promote scenes actors to take? Okay, so the youth buzz mainly plays the role of intermediary, which helps the mall deepen the connection with relevant departments, etc. So this is pretty abstract, but the bridging actions is a useful addition which this guy is bringing to it. He's adding the youth and the consumption aspect, which is not clearly there in Althusser and the simple label of capitalist. On the other hand, the style of having "Who are you?" or "What are you doing?" is a voice of authority. It's top down. It's the leader, the distinction, the person at the top who's saying to the people at the bottom. In this sense, it may be simply young people. Because you're young, you are at the bottom in terms of the age structure, low at the start. Whereas people who are more senior in age dominate as the implicit point there, more visible. And we could say, so what if we're contrasting the U.S., China, and Europe? How much? Who wants to comment briefly on, say, the differences between, say, Rome, France, China, and the U.S.? This is based on your personal experience or anything you read about these. Or that is, does age make a difference between, say, I mean, you've only come here to the U.S. I mean, you know this from the media. You all know this from the media. But you've been here a little longer. You've been a lot, but you haven't traveled to China, I guess.
I've never been to China, but I've been to Japan. I've been to Paris. I've been to Rome.
Okay. What's your sense of the age hierarchy and how that works in the three locations?
Well, I think from what I understand, in sort of like the Asian societies, there's a lot of tension right now between sort of like this very vibrant youth community that is trying to like sort of negotiate and renegotiate their place in society within the construct of like a society that is much more elder oriented. And so you have this sort of like interplay between like tradition and sort of renegotiation. And you see this a lot, I think, on social media, specifically like in among like an Asian emergent like professional class, which are sort of like very modern, very sort of perhaps what's the term? Oh my god.
Oh, but that's great. I mean, all that is great, and that and you're answering by contrasting the age groups within China. If we try to then compare briefly to, say, France and Italy, and then the U.S., what would you add?
Yeah, I think the comparison is
at least if we just took Hollywood as a source, which is being used as well by people who are young people or older people in all these three locations.
Yeah, I think, when you look at sort of like a more Western youth culture, you have like how do I describe it? It's sort of sort of like more scrappy in a way. Like you have this sort of like youth interest in like there's like similar negotiations going on, but it seems like it's a lot more diffuse. There's maybe not as clear as like a social movement around youth specifically, but it is oriented still towards these sort of like questions of style and you know, differentiation, right? You hear a lot about, you know, oh well, Gen Alpha is like Zoomers and they have like their own little weird subculture, which contrasts to like Gen Zers who are like at the very beginning of the millennium. Like you have like these sort of like buckets of characteristics, at least within the United States, of like, you know, Boomers are this way and Gen X is this way, Millennials are this way, and you have like these broad sort of cultural meanings assigned to these age ranges of associations. And so when you get to like the intersection of space, scene, and like age, you have each generation sort of like imagines its own specific type of like places its own, right? So like you'll have a lot of like, you know, the online space is the space of like Gen Zers and especially Gen Alpha. You might have like some sort of nostalgia for, you know, the suburbs, which are for an older generation. I see it playing out like along those lines, and I don't know if there's as strong a sort of generational delineation like that in sort of like the Asian societies.
Like for me, I just wanna stand out a really special cultural thing in Chinese youth generation. Like, I don't know whether they do this behavior because they want to get a feeling of engagement and flowing and, you know, like have topics to talk with people like their age. They always go to the places to have photos or, you know, like have consumption behaviors, just traveling there because somebody is somebody is always a superstar. Like somebody is really popular on the social media. Like, okay, super popular people have gone there, so I wanna go there too. Maybe exactly like I just order the same food, I take picture in the same places, I just see this table, they already sit. Like, because I was not that person, just observation. Like, I saw they use this way to pretend in something to make them, to copy the pace of the popular star and to make them also popular. You know, like to be seen by people around them. But from the culture I know on TikTok, I saw little American youth do the same thing. Like, I know there's some trend on TikTok, like somebody take a video from some music and do some specific behavior, but I don't know, I think like the American youth just copy from them, but also created them in their own independent way to present their own thought on it. And I don't know, I think there could be some difference between them, but I think it's a little hard to tell like what specifically the difference, like the thing behind this behavior really is.
Okay, good points all, for sure. And they're all there, and this is moving beyond the simple label of capitalism, but they're concepts which are simply age, cohorts, and seniority, which is, I mean, the simple answer would be China would have had the strongest age structure, hierarchical differentiation, and probably today still is. Europe is in the middle, with Southern Europe, Italy, Spain, Greece, and Greece's Orthodox Catholicism, Italy, Spain, France, Roman Catholicism. France is intermediary to the north, and we get to the North Germany, the Scandinavians, the English, most of the English. Basically, we have Protestantism, and this is, of course, what Max Weber wrote about in these kinds of hierarchical differences. And we can still see them today, not seen as a yes or no, but as a way of conceptualizing and measuring the degree of hierarchy based on religious and national differences. So, the kinds of points you're making are useful and with youthful examples, and at least the ideal in which I would say you have more simply identified with many of the traditional Hollywood movies is a youth culture in the sense, and so here I'm making a big point, a more abstract point, is we clearly do have fandom with Taylor West, with Lady Gaga, with Jim in the past, Jimmy Dean. That is a youthful model, that is someone who may be 30 or 40, but they are seen as a youthful type in style, closer to the youth age cohort than their parents or their grandparents. And so in that sense, the youth culture is more big point is more egalitarian. And the U.S., let's say the West Coast compared to the East Coast, you have again similar variations, or Northern California versus Southern California, you have LA is the youthful egalitarian city. New York is the more hierarchical, and Boston more so the more hierarchical city within the U.S. And then we're joining these things with variations of regional culture, with age and international variations as well. Okay, so we take a. What time we said we have a break?
Oh, we can take a break now.
About
Fine.
Let's see. Okay, let's quick. That is, this has been great. I mean, you're talking, and you're the leaders in this discussion now, linking it to the bigger, better, older theories, and the current presentation. Or let me give you one bottom line. I would say the terms from Althusser or hierarchy is stronger than we would be than if we had, say, middle class America. It would have been a little, by contrast, say when I was teaching in the Sorbonne twice in Paris, and each time I'd been there in May. I'd been there, and I did my thesis on the university and how it worked. So I was there in May '68. Then later on, I taught there later on in the month of May, and they had the same battles with the police and with parents and with hierarchy in May. What happens in May? It's just before the exams. There's a lot of tension. Am I going to fail that exam? So people are, and so they may drink more, and they're studying hard, but they're also tense, and they fight with the police. And the police then the French have 3, 4, 5 kinds of police: riot police, student police, international police, and they all come together and they run after the students. And so So when I was walking through one street, for example, and there were about 30 students, and they were running as fast as they could, and then there was silence. Uh-oh, the police are going to be here. So I quickly jumped into the movie theater, and so I could look through the glass door of the movie theater. But I didn't want to be in that street, and because 30 seconds later, there were 150 policemen running after them. Okay, so the students could run faster than the police. Okay, so these are the old streets of Paris before the Haussmann streets. Okay, so my simple point is more hierarchy in China traditionally, more relative for the Europeans, the Southern Europeans. You go to the Northern Europeans or to the Americans, let's say specifically, this is the spirit now of Calvinism, which was created as well with the laboratory school of this University of Chicago, was the beacon of what is called progressive education. And progressive education is, let me ask the Chinese, you know what that means? That is, many of you don't know the term. It's a European and American term.
I heard that the laboratory school is the first school in U.S. use this progressive education. This means to let the students create, right?
Yes. That's it. And that let students be creative. I mean, that's perfect. In a short version of it, you could say the student, maybe this, okay, just I'd say putting it like that is great. Short, I mean, just as short as distinction or capitalism. Let the students be creative. That's progressive education. We don't get this in a tough American high school. It's not in a tough American family, and it's not in Bronzeville. Bronzeville, you still have mothers now. You know, they have a son, especially. You have a son who's doing something, and his mother hits him over the head, and he when this happens after 4, 5, 6 times, the sons go away and they go into gangs. They drop out of school. They don't know who their fathers are, and there's a sense of hierarchy which is there. And they are beaten down by that. The daughters are closer to their mothers, and they go to Baptist church. The sons, then we have Joseph Yee, looked at where do these sons go in African American youth, and the answer, one answer is evangelical churches, who are a little more extreme than the Baptist church, which is more established for African American mothers and daughters. Soko Gakkai is a Japanese Buddhist organization recruiting African Americans on the South Side who are 40% roughly members across the U.S. who are African American or minority, but nevertheless the majority is still white. But then there's so there are 4 that he analyzed, including martial arts, Soko Gakkai, Amway is a direct sales organization. Again, 40% minority, and the martial arts, Amway, Soko Gakkai. I'm missing something, but the point is there are 4 of them, and they all have a roughly 40% African American, including young men. And they learn from it also. What's different from the lab school is behind these 4 is there's more hierarchy. It's not just you can do what you want, let the children be creative, which is what you can do. In the lab school, you got to do what mother says, or your father. You don't even see him. But there's a sense of toughness and hierarchy, or using the label of capitalism as a way of sort of the establishment. Somebody's beating me down. Okay. But And so what Joseph then shows is people are beating you down, but on the other hand, these four organizations can show you a vehicle to rise, and you can become, not only you're black, you have a black belt. If you can earn a black belt by being really good at being a martial artist, then that same martial arts master, when the master will say to a 14-year-old young black kid who's there with his mother, they're both there in the martial arts sessions together, egalitarianism, but the master then says, did you do your homework last night? So, well, I was a little too busy. 20 push-ups. So there are 15 people and they all watch him. They watch him do 15 push-ups. And at the end, he's having trouble doing it, but he's got the message. You got to be doing your homework. And he takes more cues positively. It's a little version of fandom here within the bigger context. And the bottom line that Joseph then adds, looking at changes over time for African Americans, what were those changes in value, in answers to questionnaires, and to where they did different things, that which churches they went to. He's got denominational differences and changes in attitude and the like. And basically, the biggest changes were articulated by people the African Americans who went to racially integrated churches that were sort of evangelical in this sense. In that sense, it looks like evidence from the General Social Survey supporting Joseph's field work that these young black men are learning, or that is, they sort of knew they were there. I mean, they knew about these multiple layers of values, but they're following themselves more themselves. They want to rise as well. They want to do better in life. And so where and how to do so they find success in these four kinds of organizations. And we've had them come to class, Joseph, so we've had, etc. And there's several papers by Joseph He were in our readings and in the Scenescapes book in discussion on these. Okay, so the answers, the simple point I'm making with this is what the author of this does, which is positively creative, is joining these bigger European theories with the Chinese youth. What he leaves out, and which I would say then is a problem or a weakness of his analysis, but is a problem of his theories as he cites them. But I was almost going to say got it right, but that's a little too strong. But let's say what he creatively presents is pluralism. It's not distinction. It's not simply distinction. Even Bourdieu did not say capitalism usually. He usually would talk more about something like distinction. But he grew up in a strong Marxist context. Jean-Paul Sartre was a sort of fandom leader, not Max Weber. And so in that sense, over here on the other side would be Raymond Aron, Max Weber, Parsons, Lipset, etc. They moved toward a multi-causality in further in the West, and the majority of the smart French and Italian social scientists as well did the same. And I would say many of the Chinese are doing the same as well now. They're looking for multi-causality, and he's doing it in his field work. That's my bottom line. That is, what he's seeing is really a multi-causal story, and there are more adjectives if we look on. So this is the surrounding. This kind of stuff is the hierarchy. But if we scroll down to the end, where it's got conclusions, he basically is talking more about many. Yeah, here we go. Buzz Buzz can be seen as attracting hotspots, but the important point here is he's talking about not one hierarchy with Mr. Capitalist or only Uniqlo. He's using a pluralistic term here. Situations plural, where one man's meat is another and another's poison exists. By allowing the internally, the same name of Buzz can be vastly different in the sense that there are many different, what I've talked about is, say, anchors or issues specifics, and that's the version, say, the Robert Dahl concept and who governs of the issue specificity, which is now used in ideological analysis. Okay, I've given you sort of the bottom lines. What we'll try in the next section of the class is to look more at the readings which build up to these same kinds of conclusions in different ways, different data, different topics. But basically, we're seeing these pieces come together, and so this is a useful session for seeing one person struggling to do this. So I'll end there. I would say the reason, the reason, even though he's using plural sources of dynamics, he doesn't articulate them, in part because his research design is one mall, one kind of dynamic. And he doesn't look, for example, at that is what he leaves out, and which is much more visible in the American youth culture tradition, is the term the peer group. So the peer group is the idea, it's not top down, it's equal. And that concept of equality is even stronger in China ideologically with Mao. So the Cultural Revolution, in a sense, was, we're moving too far away from egalitarianism. We're going to have a cultural revolution and send back these damn people who are getting too rich back to the countryside. And we still have aspects of that now within China. So and we also had the same thing in Eastern Europe. In Eastern Europe, they lived under Marxism for 20 years with the Russian domination. After 1989, the Berlin Wall went down. They immediately embraced market economics. And in the next election in the Czech Republic, the majority of votes went to not the majority, but the plurality of votes went to which party? The communists. The communists were democratically elected because they said, capitalism has led to more inequality and you are suffering. Re-elect the communist leadership, and people did. So in that sense, the idealism, and you still see this in surveys in Eastern Europe, stronger than in Western Europe, with that sense so we've added in the 15 scenes dimensions, one of the 15 we added to Max Weber. He had the 3 types of legitimacy. We added a 4th and a 5th, and most importantly, egalitarianism. Okay, I'll end there for a break, and let's